What do you miss the most about the early 2000s? Social media was way less toxic. I'd take MySpace and LiveJournal back in a heartbeat. Bring back profile themes, based on injecting style tags into your profile bio. I spent forever scripting a thing on my MySpace page, where it would show an inverted copy of my background image as the background for the tables only. So as you scrolled, the background image would appear to be static, but would also appear to change color specifically where the tables were. Future web designer in the making. MySpace was definitely a lot of people's first foray into programming. I bet some people decided to go into programming because they enjoyed tinkering with HTML and CSS when designing profiles. Leaving the house without my phone, wallet, or keys. I remember being a kid and going to an amusement park and on roller coasters. No worries about anything in my pocket. The idea of going is somewhat stressful now, trying to figure out what to do with everything in your pocket for every ride. Could not agree with you more, my curiously colored Miritimous bear friend. The time before corporations took over the internet. It used to be like the Wild West, which had drawbacks, but I still miss it. I remember when you could allegedly buy human meat by the pound on the internet. It wasn't actually true, but the fact that it was a believable rumor gives you a pretty good sense of how people felt about the early internet. Like the bonsai kitten hoax. Mayo. OMG, that thing terrified me as a child. My dad had to look it up and show me that it was fake lol. Being near 20 years younger. I miss my recovery ability of 20 years ago. COVID has led me to get back into rollerblading because the gyms are closed, and after my first fall I could barely walk for a week. I miss my 20s. Optimism for the future. You guys were optimistic? After 9/11 and the twin invasions in the Middle East, I feel like the West got more paranoid and dangerous. I was young at the time, but the whole year I was excited because 2001 was the year Space Odyssey took place. When 9/11 happened, I remember thinking, please don't let this be what our time is remembered for. This is meant to be a year of hope. Not only did 9/11 cast a shadow over the decade, but the entire generation and America has kinda gone more defensively insane as time has gone on. Looking back, I'm afraid it might be the first domino. Honestly, I feel like Columbine was the first domino. Not a national tragedy that killed thousands, but it was a real awakening for many into the more toxic element of our culture. And it only got worse after that. Now, before Columbine there was Waco, Ruby Ridge, and the Oklahoma City bombing. And before that, crime was at an all-time high in the early 90s. News wasn't all everything is so cool back then either. It was pretty much the same. Just there was like a 6-year period from 1993 to 1999 where the economy was good. The exponential climb of CPU power and speed. Now it's just scaling. While new hardware releases are less exciting than they used to be. Honestly, I'll take it, because it means your hardware isn't obsoleted as fast. I used to build a new PC every 18 months just to keep up. My current rig is almost 3 years old, and I'm still totally satisfied with it. Granted, it was top of the line shit when I built it. If I had used more mid-range components, I'd probably be looking at a rebuild right now. I had the same rig from 2011 to 2019. I upgraded the GPU in 2013. But only because I went with an ultra budget GPU in 2011. Other than let me play games with everything maximumed in 4K vs 1080p. My 2019 rig doesn't actually do anything different than my 2011/3 rig. The simple life. Innocence. For a second there I thought you were talking about the Zeros TV show with Paris Hilton and Nicole Richie. I hope everybody who upvoted that thought the same. I'm actually watching the show on Tubi now. It's pretty funny now that I'm older. 2000's fashion was meh. I think 2000's fashion was less about what looked good and more about what looked fun. Also, yeah, the show is a nostalgia trip. No social media LAN party sleepovers, the music, Linkin Park and Eminem in his prime, Halo and the debut of Sparks Live in Halo 2, experiencing Dragon Ball Z for the first time. I think Cell BUU Saga all premiered in the US for the first time between 2000 and 2003. RuneScape, though I had to fight with dial-up internet for a couple years. Napster and the revolution of file sharing. LucasArts. RIP LucasArts. So many incredible games. Between Disney and EA, it's like watching your favorite childhood toys get thrown into a wood chipper. Being a child. Being a kid was so much fun. I'm just bored all the time now. I find childhood nostalgia weird. You can basically do and buy whatever you want now. Plus you can potentially have sex. Potentially underscore. Still a step up. I think most adults have sex. And what about the other things I mentioned? As a kid, you have to obey your parents and live in their house. Feeling new feelings and being ecstatic about getting a new car and a job. No matter how crappy either of them were, I was happy and proud. I also miss my grandma. She was my best friend and she trusted me to drive her around to all her doctor appointments and even to go see her other son 3 hours away. Social media was way more innocent. I miss the overall aesthetic. Like if you look at Target stores back then compared to now. Everything used to be so colorful and vibrant. Like it was leftovers from the 90s. Now it's all about modernity, which I think is boring. It's precisely the sentiment or other, the recognition of it by fashion and design industries that brings trends and styles back in a cyclical fashion every few decades. I feel like the 70s came back up, went away, then came back up within 3 years. Anyway, a lot of 90s and early 2000s fashion obviously sucks, but I kinda can't believe the cartoonishness hasn't come back in other ways. Commercials have been so random lol for like 10 years now. Bring back that duck in honeycombs freak for the sake of having a honeycombs freak. But commercials are just trying so poorly to be a meme and it sucks. That's really it. Marketing guys are trying to really capitalize on becoming a meme. A lot of the time it doesn't work. But every now and again you get a Dennis Tumblr or Wendy's Twitter where people spread ads just because they like them in a way that's indistinguishable from legit content. Growing up where multi-billion-dollar companies are as social media savvy as everyone else is going to be rough. No clear lines between ads and content. Nintendo DS Lite days. Pictochat was the bomb. It sure was. Was super fun at and in conventions too. The World Trade Center. And ability to visit the pilots during the flights. Or walk into the airport without anxiety about your bra settings off alarms. I remember as a kid looking at the cockpits wide open knowing something very bad would happen one day. I wish I was wrong. Life really has been completely different since then. Death of mankind's innocence. It's probably not on YouTube anymore, but ages ago I watched a brilliant documentary called 9/10ths. The day before, and as you can imagine it's about life the day before everything happened, but the airport staff and McDonald's workers who by random chance met those guys hours before they got on those planes are interviewed. When websites were actually somewhat usable and not bogged down by layer after layer of scripts, ads, and paywalls. I know, right? There are some websites that load slower now than the dial-up days. Load the ads. Load the videos. Load the cookie consent. Okay, here's your content. No wait. Here's a pop-up asking you to subscribe where you have to click a small and very specific X to close. Okay, here's your content. Lol. Just kidding. As you scroll we are going to keep peppering this article with ads. Some of which you will have to mute or close to continue reading. Please bring back early 2000s internet. It was so much better. Reddit itself is an example. The new Reddit design is just god awful. Trying to load a page on my phone, like you said, reminds me of the dial-up days. Sacrificing the user experience at the cost of more ad revenue. That seems to be the M.O. behind most of the major website redesigns these days. Not being depressed. I'll drink to that. Don't think that's meant to help. Cheers. The music. Limp Bizkit. Linkin Park. Alien and Farm. System of a Down. Eminem, at his peak. D12. 50 Cent. Get Rich or Die Tryin'. Ja Rule and Ashanti. Nelly. Blink 182. Papa Roach. Shaggy, Nelly Furtado, Crazy Town, Avril Lavigne, Afroman, Because I Got High, Wheatus, Teenage Dirtbag, Destiny's Child, Vitamin C, Gorillaz, Eve, Gwen Stefani, Black Eyed Peas, Evanescence, Sean Paul, Missy Elliott, Justin Timberlake, Good Charlotte. What a time to be alive. Meeting with friends frequently. Cell phones weren't overpriced drugs. Nowadays a drug problem is cheaper than a phone bill. Napster, Kazaa, Morpheus, LimeWire for ease of access to computer aids. My excitement about life. AOL Instant Messenger. I can still hear the bling of when my crush would sign on. Also I remember a handful of my away messages lol. Not having to build things on the web that fit in a bajillion different permutations of screen sizes, resolutions and orientations. 4:3 1024x768. Print send. Not being aware of how the world really is. Don't get me wrong. Being aware of stuff and being able to act on one's beliefs about the world. Being in a position to enact actual change. I wouldn't give them up for anything. But life sure was a lot nicer when all I had to think about was playing games for hours and wondering what life was gonna be like when I was older. This hits me pretty hard. Just playing The Sims alone in my room and wondering what life could be like. I miss that sense of wonder and curiosity. I feel dread now when I think about the future. The fashion and trends. The Sopranos. Amen. Blink 182. I saw some teenagers hanging in a parking lot blasting What's My Age Again. It was wild. Yeah, some of us still know how to live lol. Hey, thanks for watching and don't forget to subscribe.